This review was requested by Joris Yazura, a friend and genmate of mine from Star Visions. If you like cooking streams and fighting games, then he's the VTuber for you. Go check out his socials. Cows and all sorts of pals, and welcome to the Creamsicle Theater. I'm Xanthe Meringue-Torte, an orange cream cow from a foreign realm, and your star of the show. Notice anything different about me? I got a 3D model! Look at it! Look at it! I can't stream with it on Twitch right now because my setup is legit ass. Still, look at it! Look at it! After I posted my review on Dominoes by New Nori, and while I was working on my script for my review on Close to You by Polar, I got a DM from Joris, requesting me to review a song called Virtual Insanity by Jamiroquai. Now, I have to let you guys know that this was just going to be a regular, average music review, but then I came up with so much to talk about, to the point where it's a combo of a review and a video essay. So if this review is longer than the others I've done, you know why. Now, I have to admit, I haven't heard of Jamiroquai until Joris showed me the song Virtual Insanity for me to review. So I decided to do some research to learn more. Here's a brief summary of who they are, according to Wikipedia. Hey guys, Future Xanthe here. I just found out that I've been pronouncing the band's name wrong. It's Jamiroquai, not Jamiroquai. My bad, y'all. My bad. Anyways, here's the Wikipedia article. Jamiroquai are an English funk and acid jazz band from London. Formed in 1992, they are fronted by vocalist J.K. and were prominent in the London-based funk and acid jazz movement of the 1990s. They built on their acid jazz sound in their early releases and later drew from rock, disco, electronic, and Latin music genres. Lyrically, the group has addressed social and environmental justice. Kay has remained as the only original member through several lineup changes. I do love those genres, so I can just tell that this will be a fun listen. However, just because this song will borrow from genres I like does not mean that I won't review the song fairly. Also, this song is actually used in a lot of memes, especially because of the funny hat that JK wears in the music video. In fact, Joris actually requested that I review this song partly because of the memes, but also because he wanted to see what I genuinely thought of the song. And I'm sure you guys want to see what I think too. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Oh my goodness. Where do I begin with the instrumentals? First of all, this song starts out with glitchy, technological sound effects, which I found out was sampled from Alien. Then there's a soft piano intro, added with an orchestral string sound. After that is that jazzy chord progression, which is actually where the music video starts. As a pianist, I really appreciate the use of piano in this song. It's the perfect instrument to set the mood the band wants to set. The first chord of the song is an E-flat minor 7 chord, which is a very interesting choice. Then it progresses to an A-flat 7 sus 4 chord, then D-flat major 9, G-flat major 11, C minor 7 flat 5, which is a half diminished 7 chord, B major 7, and then B-flat 7 sharp 5. As a classically trained pianist, those chords are more commonly used in jazz-oriented pieces, so I'm not used to hearing or even playing them, but they're interesting to listen to. And I'm so glad these chord choices were made. Such a breath of fresh air whenever I hear chords like this in the music I listen to. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the good old major or minor triad. However, I feel like chords with 4 or more notes in them add more color to the song. Like some auditory color. Anyways, it uses the same chord progression for most of the first verse, except for at the end of the verse, which brings in 2 new chords, B flat 7 and D minor 7 flat 5. This is a great way to transition into the chorus. Introducing those 2 chords at the end of the verse adds a change in tone and mood of the song. It's not too much of a change to the point where the mood shifts completely, nor is it to the point where it takes away from the lyrical meaning of the song, but it's enough to catch the listeners off guard, to keep them paying attention, despite the catchy beat in the background. Also, there's something I've noticed when it comes to the drum beat as well. The drummer is drumming on a 4/4 time signature, and they hit the snare on the 3rd beat of each measure. Pretty simple drum beat. However, when the singer, JK, sings the whoa in the first verse, the drummer does not hit the snare in the measure at all. No kick drum either. But the hi-hat is still being hit on all 4 beats, which can create shivers down the listener's spine. Then the drum beat goes back to normal for the rest of the verse. Now we transition to the chorus. This is where it gets interesting. First of all, a new instrument is being introduced. I can't really pinpoint what the instrument is, but it's a unique instrument that keeps the listener on their toes, and it makes the chorus sound different. To me, the instrument sort of sounds like a xylophone, but I could be wrong. If so, that is such a creative use for it. I don't think I've ever heard a xylophone used in a popular song before. I love how just the use of different instruments can change how a song feels, and the members of Jamiroquai seem to know this very well. It's not just the additional instrument that keeps the chorus interesting. The chord progression changes as well. The chords for the chorus go like this: E major 7, D diminished 7, E flat minor 7, G flat major 11, A flat minor 7, and B flat 7. A lot of these chords are actually used in the first verse. So what the band did, intentionally or not, was take some of the chords from the first verse and put them in a different order, along with adding a few new chords, which gives the chorus a similar feeling to the first verse, but the feeling is not exactly the same. Then, the chord progression for the second verse is the same as the chord progression of the first verse, which gives a feeling of familiarity for the listener. However, there is a tiny little reverb effect. It's very slight, and it's in the background during this verse, but not the first verse. Now, I said in the background because, like I said, the reverb sound effect is very quiet. It's so faint that I didn't know it was there until like several listens in. Why did I not notice it at first? Because I got so comfortable with the flow of the verses and how they sound. Just like how we all adapt and get so comfortable with the technology that JK is talking about. Just like in the first verse, JK does a whoa, but unlike the first verse, the kick and the snare keep going. It's another way to keep the listener on their toes. Maybe the band did it just because it felt right. Or maybe it's a subtle way of telling the listener, hey, you shouldn't get used to this. You shouldn't get so comfortable with this. Now, we have the exact same instrumental for the second chorus as we do for the first chorus, which brings a sense of familiarity to the listener. The band then flips that on its head again by not going into a bridge, but by going into another chorus with a different set of lyrics, although that same chord progression still keeps going. The chord progressions and instrumentals stay the same, but there's backing vocals this time, which can bring a haunting, chilling feeling to the listener. Then the song shifts into a totally different feeling, with a very smooth transition. This part is an instrumental interlude, sounding like a mix of Latin music and 70s funk, especially with the use of piano, bass, and guitar reverbs. I got Latin music vibes from this section because the way the piano is played gives off the same vibes as the way a guitar would be played for that type of music. Also, this part of the interlude only uses 4 chords, and it borrows some of the same chords we've already used. And let me tell you, I'm here for it. I am here for it. But then, during that same interlude, there's a key change. Unfortunately, even though I have perfect pitch, I can't exactly pinpoint what chords are being used here, especially because I have more trouble figuring out 4-note chords given the fact that I'm not as used to them as 3-note chords. In fact, some of these chords were chords I was able to figure out on my own, but some of them I had to look up, especially the ones with more than 4 notes. I won't be able to recognize these types of chords if I get to play them more often though. Anyways, even though key changes are hard to do smoothly in songs, believe me, as an aspiring singer and songwriter, I would know. But this band does it so well, and they knew how to use this key change to establish a shift in mood. This key change only happens for a short bit though. Then it goes back to the interlude's original key. And then they add violins to the layers of instruments. The way Jamiroquai did it for this song felt like the auditory equivalent of feeling uneasy, especially with the guitar reverb and all, which is exactly the point of the song. The instrumental matches the tone color imagery of the lyrics, which is perfect. For those of you who don't know what tone color imagery is, it is a technique used by professional actors when speaking their lines. Actors use this technique during the acting process to try and really feel what their character is feeling. After getting to think about the internal monologue, which I'll talk about later, actors use something called tone color, which is imagining the color to associate with the tone of a line. And for those of you familiar with color psychology, it can really help put 2 and 2 together for an actor. Also, actors use imagery when speaking their lines too, meaning that when an actor is talking about a noun, which, as you all know, is a person, place, or thing, they envision that specific noun in their mind, helping to connect that to their character's inner monologue. I have a gut feeling that not only did JK use this technique for singing the lyrics, but the whole band used this technique for making the instrumental. At the end of this interlude, the band goes from playing legato, meaning the notes are playing smoothly and connected, to staccato, meaning the notes are playing shortly and detached. And they went staccato on all of the instruments. The piano, the violins, the bass, everything. And then the sound goes back to using the same piano sound and chord progressions that are used in the verses. And it goes back to just pure piano. Nothing but piano. Then the hi-hat comes in. This part sounds exactly like the beginning of the piece. Now this time, the listener doesn't know what comes next, because Jamiroquai has flipped the predictability completely on its head. So much on its head to the point where the listener should know better by now than to get familiar with the song. They flipped the predictability so much on its head to the point where the listener should know by now to stay on their toes. It really makes for an interesting and compelling listening experience, especially for first-time listeners. And I love it when artists make their music an experience. Another thing I haven't noticed until several listens in is the fact that at the beginning of this part, there is a gust of wind. Like I said, I didn't even notice it until several listens in. This song is so layered to the point where I had to listen to it several times to catch all the details. When I first heard this part, I thought that the song was either going to end or that a bridge was going to start, only for the song to transition to the first chorus again after a bass line and a drum fill. That really surprised me, and oh my gosh, I love it. I freaking love it. Also, the bass line and the drums really made that transition smooth. Then, after that, JK starts riffing, and the backup vocals really start to shine. The way the backup vocals sound remind me of a piano being played, which fits so well because of the use of the piano in the song from time to time. Also, another thing, I love it when JK riffs in this. As a theater major and as a musician, I have heard plenty of singers riff, and there are 2 types of riffers. The first type of riffer is a riffer who riffs just to show off. The second type of riffer is a riffer who riffs to show emotion. JK clearly is the second type of riffer. You can really feel what he's feeling when he's riffing like this. Also, whenever he uses his falsetto voice, he uses it effectively, and it really tugs at the listener's heartstrings, causing the listener to feel the same grief he's feeling. I actually think that JK has an incredible tenor voice. There's so much emotion being conveyed throughout this piece, which is what singers should do when they sing. Singing isn't just moving your mouth and hitting the notes. Sure, it can be like that when you're having a karaoke session with your friends, but when you're an artist, and you're singing and or writing about subject matter such as the virtual insanity that was being written about, it's important to have an inner monologue so you can really feel what you're singing. Now, you're probably asking, What is an inner monologue? For those of you who aren't singers or actors, an inner monologue is a character's inner thoughts. Professional actors use an inner monologue to get into character, which is why their portrayals are so believable and compelling. One thing I was taught while taking voice lessons is that singers use internal monologues too. After working on the notes, lyrics, and vocal techniques, singers start to do their inner monologue work. They start to think about who they're singing as, who they're singing to, and why they're singing what they're singing. JK's inner monologue in this is very clear. He's singing as himself, he's singing directly to the listener, and he's trying to warn us all about a future made of virtual insanity. The two artists I've reviewed before this one didn't have internal monologues, and it showed due to their lack of emotions, especially because one of those artists is an AI singer. My voice professor and I even talked about this during one of my lessons recently. We talked about how AI may know how to sing now, but will never replace real-life singers, especially those who know how to effectively use an inner monologue. In fact, this review is very fitting for this subject. While technology can help advance society, it can also be detrimental to society as well. Part of the downsides is the fact that while technology is capable of giving people jobs, it can also take away jobs as well, especially with the rise of AI. Not only do the lyrics portray that message well, which I'll get to that later, but the instrumentals and vocals give off a grieving, melancholic feeling, grieving the world we live in now. Anyways, I digress. Back to the song. The song ends with the sound of the crash cymbal ringing out softly, and then back to just simple piano and violin. The use of chords at the ending ties the song in a neat little bow. They go from B major 7 to D flat major 9, B flat minor 7, then C minor 7 flat 5, B major 7, then they end with a B flat 7 sharp 5. The use of the B flat 7 sharp 5 chord at the end gives the listener a feeling that there should be another chord after that, but there isn't. This song just fades out at this chord and ends. I'm actually glad that the band took this direction because there's no closure. There's no satisfaction with a quote-unquote final chord to put the listener at ease. The whole point is to make the listener uneasy about this virtual insanity. And finishing this chord progression by going back to a B major 7 chord or something like that would have just ruined that feeling. Long story short, this band knew what they were doing and how to really create feeling and evoke emotion in the listener with a piece of music. The use of chords, the use of beat and rhythm, and even the instruments they use is pure evidence of that. Now that we have experienced the layers of the cake, let's get to the icing. That icing being the lyrics. What I like about this song's lyrics is that even though it's about a dystopian world ruled with technology that lost all its soul, the song doesn't tell you that up front. At least not with surface level lyrics. Let's analyze these lyrics, shall we? So first off, the song starts with JK ad-libbing and going, "World we're living in." This is a great way to introduce the listener to the song because it makes the listener question, what does he mean by that? What about the world we're living in? Fortunately, the lyrics paint some sort of lyrical picture as a way of answering that question. The first 3 lines of the verse go like this. "And it's a wonder man can eat at all. When things are big that should be small, who can tell what magic spells we'll be doing for us?" The first 2 lines are either about the mass consumption and commercialization of food, or genetically engineered organisms that we use for food, such as fruit, veggies, meat, etc. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but in the United States, the market is set up so that bigger food items appear cheaper because it makes consumers think that they're getting a good deal. Thanks to genetic engineering, we can change all sorts of genes that can appear in an organism that provides us our food. And what is one thing that is caused by genetics? Size. After all, farmers have used a method known as selective breeding in order to reap the certain genetic benefits that a plant or animal could provide for them. And those benefits are normally used for our food and nutrition. So the fact that we now have genetic engineering, it could benefit those farmers. However, we have to ask this one question that we also ask about other forms of technology such as AI. Is it ethical? Also, will it provide the same type of quality as something that is not computer generated? Does it do more harm than good? These lyrics indicate that JK, the one singing this song, is against genetic engineering. And it's possibly for those reasons. Plus, genetic engineering is artificial and not natural. Also, the lyric, "Who can tell what magic spells they'll be doing for us," can not only be applied to genetic engineering, which could be compared to transformation magic in fantasy stories, transforming one thing to another, but that lyric can apply to other forms of technology as well, especially stuff like AI. I'm a performing artist, so I'll be using AI as an example throughout this lyrical analysis. AI probably is like magic to some people. I don't know how AI writing programs such as ChatGPT really work, but I do know how AI art programs work because I've seen some of my friends do it for shits and giggles. Basically, you type in a word or a phrase, and depending on how specific you are, the AI will create art based off of what you typed. Now, I'll have to admit, when I first found out about this, I thought it was pretty cool. I even wanted to try it myself. But then I ended up learning from some friends of mine who are visual artists that AI art actually steals art from real-life artists with no permission, credit, or financial compensation whatsoever. What the AI does is that it basically takes bits and pieces of different people's artwork and then mashes it all together in one piece of art, which is very wrong, and I don't want anyone posting AI art on my Discord server or on any of my socials. Now, let's get to the next chunk of the verse. And I'm giving all my love to this world, only to be told, I can't see, I can't breathe, no more will we be. For the first line of this chunk, my interpretation is that the singer is giving all his love to this world because of how beautiful nature really is. The plant and animal species on this planet aren't anything man-made. They just exist as living, breathing creatures. And what the singer is trying to make you realize is that using technology to alter that just takes away from nature's beauty. Also, the "I can't see, I can't breathe" lyric is similar to a line in Shakespeare's 18th sonnet. The line goes, "So far that men can breathe or eyes can see." I don't know if JK took that lyrical inspiration directly from the sonnet or not, but it's still a nice connection nonetheless. The next lyrics go like this: "And nothing's gonna change the way we live, 'cause we can always take but never give, and now that things are changing for the worse." The way that I interpret this chunk of lyrics is that it's a warning that our excessive use of technology will be the downfall of society. Because the way that we use resources is that we overconsume, and it's in ways that it's bad for the environment. If we just take from our planet and don't give back, then eventually we won't have any more resources to take anymore. However, because the technology is so beneficial to us right now, we won't be changing our habits, not until it's too late. This chunk of lyrics right here applies to so much. Genetic engineering, fast fashion, electronic waste, AI art, you name it. Hell, Amazon is even making it so that robots are working for them because underpaying and abusing their workers just isn't working for them anymore. The fact that I am saying that as a Twitch streamer, oh my goodness. Anyways, after that chunk is the last few lyrics of the verse. See, whoa, it's a crazy world we're living in, and I just can't see that half of us immersed in sin. I think the "half of us immersed in sin" lyric is included with the belief that's actually commonly used in religion, that it's a sin to alter what you or someone else has been naturally born with. While I can't speak for the singer because I don't know him as a person, what I can say is I don't personally believe that stuff when it comes to tattoos, piercings, or even plastic surgery. People can do whatever they want with their bodies, and it is none of anybody's business. But because it's possible to alter the genetic makeup of a plant or animal, imagine being able to do that with a human. I think that this song was written so that we as a society could have discussions on these things. It's a chilling thing to talk about, and sometimes we need the arts, especially music, to even bring up subjects like this. And then we have the last line of the verse before we go straight into the chorus. It goes like this: is all we have to give these futures made of virtual insanity, now always seem to be governed by this love we have for useless twisting, all the new technology. Oh, now there is no sound, for we all live underground. Now, this chorus is very surface level, but it works. Sometimes we need surface level lyrics to get to the point, especially when the listener isn't catching on to the subtle hints and metaphors. This is one of those times where the surface level lyrics better helps the listener understand what the song is about, and it ties the lyrics into a neat little bow, like it's some sort of poem. Now, we go into the second verse, and I'm thinking, what a mess we're in. Hard to know where to begin. If I could slip the sickly ties of earth that man has made. The slip the sickly ties lyric is about how our constant over-excessive use of man-made technology is taking the beauty out of this earth and is making our planet sick. This could hint at how our excessive use of technology is harmful for the environment, especially because the word sick is commonly used by environmental activists to describe the state of our planet. Then, JK talks about genetic engineering once more with this lyric. And now every mother can choose the color of her child. That's not nature's way. Now, this chunk of lyrics is obviously getting into hypotheticals, but it is a possible hypothetical. Like I said earlier, if we can alter the genetic makeup of plants and animals, imagine if we could do that to other humans. People who are firm believers of stuff like eugenics would love to get their hands on any sort of technology that would be remotely capable of doing such a thing. They could choose for their child to have a different race, to have a different hair and eye color, to have a different hair texture, to be void of disabilities, or literally anything else that can be affected by genes. This could cause less diversity for the world, and it's honestly scary. On to the next part. Well, that's what they said yesterday. There's nothing left to do but pray. I think it's time I found a new religion. This part is very straightforward. Basically, not only does JK talk about losing hope in humanity, also in divinity as well. And he is wondering if any god or gods he might believe in would even intervene. Here's the last two lines of this verse. Whoa, it's so insane to synthesize another strain. There's something in these futures that we have to be told. Now, if the lyrics before this didn't already make it clear on what the song is about, the words synthesize another strain makes that point very clear and really hammers it home. The so-called strain clearly means strain of DNA. While the singer doesn't directly tell you what the song is about, the listener will find the meaning in the lyrics if they really pay attention to it, and I appreciate that wholeheartedly. The artist isn't blunt about what the lyrics mean, but the listener can still grasp the message of the song. And that's the sweet spot that I think all lyricists should go for when writing songs like this. Anyways, the chorus then repeats, and after that is a chunk of ad-libbed lyrics. Now there is no sound if we all live underground, and now it's virtual insanity. Forget your virtual reality. Oh, there's nothing so bad as a meddling man. Oh yeah, I know. Now, because these lyrics are ad-libbed, they don't really add much more meaning to the song than it already has, which is understandable, because it's already like a cake with many layers. If anything, like I said earlier, the ad-libbing helps add the soul and emotion to the song, which really helps hit the point home, especially because the auditory picture that JK is trying to paint is the fact that this technology-dependent world we're turning into is a soulless one. However, the lyric genetic as a man-made man could be talking about the fact that our society has grown so accustomed to technology that it affects our way of living from generation to generation, to the point where it could even affect children's upbringing. Let me say this. The fact that this message still applies today is scary. Like, have you seen the iPad kids of today? They're basically being raised with their faces in their iPad screens 24/7 because their parents don't know how to raise them. This led them to having no social skills or behavioral etiquette, and they also can't even read. Although, part of the issue is the fact that schools nowadays teach sight words instead of phonics, but that's for another topic. Also, don't get me wrong. I understand that one reason why iPad kids are the way they are is because they spent some of their early years in a global panorama. However, that meant that the responsibility was on the parents more than ever to teach them social skills, behavioral etiquette, and even basic fundamentals for their education, such as letters, numbers, colors, shapes, etc., so that these children could have been at least a bit better off. But no, these parents just gave these kids iPads and were basically just like, have fun, because it was the easy way out. Basically just neglecting their kids in the process. Now, keep in mind, virtual insanity was written in the 90s. The 90s. And here we are now having these iPad kids. I know that JK's intent was to write about genetic engineering while writing this song, but some of these lyrics are so ambiguous, to the point where it made this song applicable to all ways that technology could be damaging to humankind. Don't get me wrong. Technology and its advancements can help humankind for the greater good. However, it's the misuse and the overconsumption that can be damaging. Anyways, back to the lyrical breakdown. After that is some more ad-libbing, but they're just repeated lyrics, so I don't really have anything more to say on that. Then, the chorus repeats again, and then there's a post-chorus. The post-chorus goes like this. Oh, now there's nothing that we live in. It's all going wrong. Out of window, you know. There is nothing worse than a rambling man. There is nothing worse than a foolish mind. Virtual insanity is what we're living in. Yeah, it's alright. Now, when I first heard this ending chunk right here, I didn't understand the line, there is nothing worse than a rambling man. There is nothing worse than a foolish mind. However, there's this one piece of literature that I had to read for a French literature class I took this past semester, and it helped me understand where JK was coming from. It also helped me understand any possible context behind this line. Allow me to explain. Émile ou de l'éducation, which translates to Emile or on education in English, is a famous work written by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. For those of you who don't know who Jean-Jacques Rousseau was, he was a Swiss-born French philosopher, political theorist, and writer from the Enlightenment period. His work was so influential that not only did he end up inspiring the leaders of the French Revolution, but his philosophies ended up revolutionizing the arts, education, and early childhood development. Émile ou de l'éducation is a piece of literature that is basically a combination between an essay and a novel. It's basically a teaching story, teaching about the importance of childhood education. The story's about Émile, a rich boy who has a private tutor who teaches him throughout the years. The tutor was given unlimited authority on ways he could help Émile really absorb the information. The point of Émile ou de l'éducation was the point that Rousseau wanted to show that a natural education is more enriching for a student and helps students become more social, moral, and rational as they grow up, but also staying true to their original nature. This was Rousseau's way of arguing that a natural education is better for students than the formal education of society, which he deemed as artificial. The way this piece was written is that it follows Émile's development from birth to adulthood. There's a certain part of the piece that I remembered very vividly, and it occurred from when Émile was around 11 to 15 years old. During this part of the story, the lesson that the tutor was trying to teach Émile was a lesson on how the position of the sun and the shadows can be used as a navigational guide. So, what the tutor does is that in order to teach Emile this lesson, he takes a more hands-on approach. They take a walk through the forest north of Montmorency, and the tutor pretends that they got lost. Emile cries at first, but then the tutor uses this as a teaching moment after successfully calming him down. With the tutor's guidance, Emile uses the direction of the sun and the shadows casted in the forest, and he figures out all on his own that he and the tutor needed to go south in order to find Montmorency, their place of destination. And what do you know? Emile was right. He found the answer all on his own, without the tutor giving him the answers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Xanthi, what does any of this have to do with the lyrics of this song? Well, the technology we have nowadays gives us all the information we could possibly ask for on our fingertips. This can be a good thing, but we shouldn't rely strictly on technology for knowledge and education. For those of you who haven't watched my streams and don't know, by the way, you really should watch my streams. I grew up sheltered under an overprotective mom, so after coming home from school, I was pretty much stuck at home for most of the time. The fact that the high schools I went to were strict didn't help either. However, after going to college and living in a dorm for most of the year, I can proudly say as a current college senior that I have learned and matured way more these past 3 years than I ever did during any of my years prior. My mental growth was pretty much stunted before I started college. Now, a large part of this is because of my major and minor, because I'm majoring in theater and minoring in French, but my college experience has been very hands-on, which is way more beneficial for me, especially given the fact that I'm autistic. That's actually why college was less of a struggle for me than K-12 was. However, I don't just think hands-on learning was beneficial to me because of my autism. I think that hands-on learning can benefit anyone. There's so much you can learn just from going outside, talking to people, trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone. Humans, and magical cows from Bovinia, learn the most from our experiences. And we need to experience life and not just be confined to technology. That's why there's nothing worse than a man-made man in JK's eyes. Also, the lyric, "There's nothing worse than a foolish man," is basically saying ignorance is bliss. The person that the singer is describing, the person who is unaware of what's going on, isn't freaked out by any of this due to their lack of awareness, which can cause the person to unknowingly be part of the problem. Then, after this song ends with, "Virtual insanity is what we're living in." Well, it's alright. At first I thought that this was JK ad-libbing again, but what if it wasn't? I think that he could be making a jab at humanity by adding this lyric in. Because what some humans, especially world leaders, do when tackling potential crises like this, by basically pushing it off to the side for later. You know, like, well, that's a future problem. We don't need to worry about that. The singer is being sarcastic, basically saying, we can basically do all to Mother Nature's creations in a way that only benefits us, and maybe our overconsumption of technology will drive the world to But that's a future problem. We don't have to worry about that now, right? And this sarcastic question is very much rhetorical, making the listener at least think about how important this issue really is. Now that I have dissected the vocals, instrumentals, and lyrics, and have put careful thought into my interpretation, it's time for me to add my final thoughts on the matter. I'm gonna be real with you guys. At first, I thought that this was just gonna be an average review, but then it turned into a whole video essay because this song gave me so much to talk about. This is more than a good thing in my book. I love it when visual and performing artists use their work to start discussions, especially about important subjects that are controversial or difficult to talk about. That's honestly what makes the art so powerful in the first place. and Jamiroquai as a collective has kept that in mind. This song is like an auditory poem, and I'm here for it. The music industry needs more music like this. I believe this wholeheartedly. After my past 2 reviews, where the songs I've listened to felt like white noise with lyrics that didn't mean anything, Virtual Insanity was not only a breath of fresh air, it was an auditory gold mine. I have thanked Joris a crazy amount of times for recommending that I review this song. In fact, this song is so layered and complex to the point where I had to listen to it on repeat for weeks just to form an opinion and write down all my thoughts. I already thought it was a really good song on my first listen, but the more I listened to it, the better it got. I could never get sick of it. Just from hearing this song alone, I'm already really starting to love this band. In fact, I'm gonna listen to the rest of their discography after this, as well as go outside and draw, because this song has spoken to me so much to the point where it made me realize that I fit the Gen Z stereotype of being on my phone too much. I even used my phone to make this video and write the script for it. Now, I'm going to do something that I have never done on this channel before. I'm going to give this song the highest honor and the highest score I have ever given to any one of my reviews. I do not give this score lightly. It has to be earned, and from what I've talked about in this review, Jamiroquai has more than earned it. To all the current and former members of Jamiroquai, I hereby give Virtual Insanity an S. Have you given this song a listen? What do you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Or do you feel more neutral? Would you say I gave it a fair score? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for reviews just like this one. Also, be sure to follow my socials for live streams, updates, and other fun stuff. I'll see you all in the next video, but in the meantime, just remember, if you jump over the moon, you'll become your own star.